ask you to just to look around you. Can you look at the person next to you? Look at me. We're amazing, aren't we? Each one of us is made of 37 trillion cells, if not more. And each one of those cells is few micrometers in size, but actually holds around 3 meters of a thread that holds a set of instructions. And these set of instructions tell each one of our cells where to go, who to interact with, who not to interact with, how to behave, and very often how long to live. And all of these set of instructions are actually encoded in only 4 letters, A, G, T, and C. 4 letters that come in different combinations, unique for every single one of them, that we are born with and live for the rest of our lives. Think of it as a genetic barcode that each one of us has. And every cell of our body, be it a skin cell or a kidney cell or a liver cell, has exactly the same barcode, but does completely different things, following different types of these instructions that are encoded in its piece of thread. And all of this barcode that each one of us has is called a genome. And this thread that holds it, it's the DNA. Even for me as a scientist, this whole idea of us starting from a single cell that is able to have all the information needed to create an entire body, able to move, talk, smile, frown, and allow us to live with it for the rest of our life, has always been very fascinating. And this idea, how does it actually happen? Exactly the same question led to one of the biggest scientific collaborations in biology, driven by the curiosity of scientists trying to understand how this string of different letters allows us to perform different functions. More specifically, they were interested in reading every single letter in our piece of string, every single letter in our genome. And all of these letters are 3.2 billion letters that make us who we are. Quite a challenging and interesting question, you have to agree. In fact, in order to perform this study, it took the collaborative effort of thousands of scientists in more than 20 institutes and 6 countries around the world. This project, called the Human Genome Project, took around 13 years to complete and cost around £3 billion. And it's one of the few projects that actually was completed before it was scheduled. And what this told us is that by collaborating in such a great scale, we can actually derive information about the way we were born and the way we are able to live our lives. But more importantly, this Human Genome Project opened the doors to an entirely new field, the field of genomics. Now, we are a lot better at reading genomes. In fact, at the moment, we are able to read 1,000 genomes, and we've had also 10,000 genomes, and the most recently, we actually have the 100,000 genome project. And the technology that enables us to actually read the genomes has also transformed. From these benchtop versions that take an entire big room, a lab, require a very elaborate lab facility and very skilled staff that has to work on it in order to read human genomes, to this version of it that takes the space of my pocket. And only by loading part of your DNA here and waiting for around an hour, you can get a live readout of your genome. And after you've read it, you can put a USB stick and take it back into your pocket. So you have to agree that reading genomes is no longer a challenge. And it seems that is a task that is becoming easier and easier to perform. As of last year, we've had around 5 million genomes sequenced. And this changes with the projection expecting that by 2020, this figure will change to 200 million genomes. Yes. And even if you don't have the kind of little and very techy device that I just showed you, it's very easy to just spit in a tube and send it to a company, just the one shown here, 23andMe, or many other companies that provide a similar genetic testing, and to give you some form of important information about you, as how likely to be addicted to caffeine or to smoking, some information about your height, about your ancestry, or about your eye color. all of this piece of important information that maybe you didn't realize you wanted to know, but you tell you about. Or if it's not about you, it could be about your pet, because this could also be done for your pet. But before we actually start sequencing everyone around, it's important to start thinking of what is actually the information hidden within our genome and what we could use it for. So using information about your genome can have huge impact on research, as in these cases where we could try to map the differences in our genome, in our genetic barcode, to how likely you are to get a certain disease or not. And in this case, if you have more of the letter C, you're more likely to be in the category of people who have heart disease than those who don't have the letter C. And the same approach has been applied to multiple other diseases like Alzheimer's, celiac disease, schizophrenia, even breast cancer. And mind you that no genetic test can tell you whether you would definitely get a disease or not. It's never a guarantee, but it's an estimate of the risk that you might have depending on your genetics, that with interaction of the environment you live in might put you at greater risk relative to others at having a certain disease. And while knowing this doesn't have to necessarily save your life, it can lead to lifestyle changes that can increase your chance of survival, like in the case of Angelina Jolie. And if you're one of those who thought that it's just an advertising campaign, I'll just put her situation into this perspective to you. If someone told you that by entering into this plane you have 80% higher chance to die than the passenger next to you, would you get in the plane? I personally wouldn't. But if we go back from Hollywood to our story here now, the ability to link genes to diseases and then to lifestyle changes actually can have huge impact on healthcare, as with the rise of personalized medicine. And personalized medicine is this ability to make decisions about your health based on your own genetic barcode, a completely personalized therapy. And indeed, companies like this one, California-based human longevity one, have already capitalized on this by sequencing your genome and performing a range of other tests in order to design a specific healthcare profile for you, then a follow-up for up to 2 years that allows you to have monitoring of every single stage of development of disease or a way to predict development of disease, only in return of $25,000, which you have to agree it's cheaper than most medical bills in the US. And if you don't want to go all the way to California, in fact, you can do this in Europe if you attend or visit one of those so-called medical wellness hotels that's very specific to Switzerland, where you can have, again, your genome sequenced or parts of your genome sequenced. And instead of having personalized healthcare, you can actually have a personalized diet, personalized fitness routine, and even personalized skincare. But genetics doesn't have to be all about healthcare and tracking diseases. In fact, as shown recently, our genes can be useful to track criminals, as with the case with this Golden State Killer, who was happily hiding for more than 40 years, committed more than 50 crimes, and could not be found by the police until they used his DNA. In fact, not just his DNA, but the DNA of millions of other individuals who've decided to freely upload their own genetic information on a website called Ancestry.com. And by tracking people who are related, the level of relatedness they have to him, they could track where he lives. And by identifying the state where he lives, they could find where he was, and thus catch him. But if you're not a policeman, work for FBI, what else can you use your genome for? Well, you can use your genome to navigate through the supermarket space and decide what products to add or not to your grocery list, knowing that you might not like them, like in the case of Marmite. Your genes apparently can tell you whether you would like the taste or not. So if you really dislike it, just blame your genes. But in addition to your food choices, something very important to everyone here, I'm sure, it'll be this. Your genes can tell you which direction to swipe on the next dating app, like this dating app here, Pheromore, that enables you to use your genetic information and genetic information of everyone else who's decided to be part of this app in order to create perfect matches of people who are more likely to build a successful relationship together. So you don't have to pick your match only by looking at their picture, but also by in their genes. So I ask myself, and I guess you ask yourself, if genomics can help us to feel healthier, to eat better, to have better relationships, why don't we all sequence our genomes? Why don't we order our sequencing kits now? In fact, maybe some of you have already started doing that, or at least downloading the Fermor app. But it's important at this stage to actually step back and think about, now that we know what our genome is, now that we know what information it carries and how useful it can be, who do we want to share it with? Does it matter who we share it with? Unless you've lived in a cave over the past month, you've probably been flooded with number of emails telling you about the changes in privacy policy, to websites and lists that you probably don't remember you've even subscribed to. And all of this was actually triggered by a single blowout of data leakage that made people realize that their clicks are actually worth a lot more than a like when in the wrong hands. And the same applies to your genome. Your genome's worth changes dramatically depending on whose hands it is in and who do we share it with. So if we want to use our genome for research and to identify diseases, it could be extremely valuable because our ability to map this relationship between genomes, diseases, and lifestyle changes is actually hugely dependent on the number of people whose genomes we are able to read. It's the power of statistics, the power of numbers there, where the more people we sequence, the more people we have genome information from, the better we are at being able to predict what genes can drive disease. And because this relationship between genes and disease is actually the base of personalized medicine, directly this influences our ability to have these personalized plans. And you can actually submit and donate your genome on databases like this one, Personal Genome Project, where your data will be, you don't have anything back, but your data will be used for research and you can track where does it actually go and what kind of research is it used for. But it sets another question that in addition to medical care and probably research, which most of you might agree could be useful to use your genome for, who else should we share our genome with? Should we share it with insurance companies that can decide on our insurance plan based on our predisposition to disease? Should we share it with retail companies who can decide what to advertise to us based on what are we likely to like or not? Or should policemen have the ability to mine through our genome every time they have a criminal case? Interesting questions, aren't they? But all of these questions would have an answer if every one of you decides what to do with their genome. And this ability to make the decision often is difficult for people because of not knowing what they can do with their genome. This Cambridge-based startup company actually provides some form of solution trying to bridge the gap between people giving their genetic information and knowing what's used for. And what they do is to let everyone who has any form of genetic information from any form of kit or test that they've used to upload on their website and actually track not only what kind of research context it's been used for, but to benefit, yes, financially, from every time their research is used, their genome is used for someone's commercial interest. And that's when it becomes interesting. And even more interesting, or probably a step further into sci-fi, is this new company that just received 50 million, I think, funding to try to introduce blockchain into all of these genomic transactions. So they want to build something that is reminiscent of Wall Street of genomics, where you use your 3.2 billion starting capital of nucleotides or letters, and then you decide what to invest them with, what would be the most profitable investment, what do you get back, and where do you reinvest it. Genomics is a billion-dollar industry that is based on people's desire to share something that's their own. And that's where the fallacy lies. That's their own. You're not an owner of your genome. In fact, you share a huge proportion with it, with your relatives, whether it's first degree relatives or second degree relatives. So any decisions you make about your genome can actually impact on their decisions, what they want to know and not know about their genomes. And equally, any decisions they make about their genomes have an impact on what you want to know about yourself. We're at a very important stage now to try to decide what do we do with all this information that we can so easily get and it can become so affordable to all of us. Because the cost of sequencing a genome had changed from £3 billion at the Human Genome Project to just under £1,000 now. So practically everyone could afford at a certain stage to do it. But it's important to know that the core importance of our information can change dramatically depending on how do we decide to use it now. It's very easy for current misuse to impact on the way that we do research in the future and to introduce a form of restrictive regulations that would prevent the development of potentially very useful therapies. And in the core of this is fear. People's opinion very often swing between extreme excitement when something new and sexy comes to extreme fear and stigma when something sounds that it's breaching in some way their privacy. Fake news, as shown in this science paper, actually spread a lot faster than any scientific discovery. So it's a lot easier for fake news to reach people. False scientific discoveries and misinterpretation of data have had huge impact on people's lives with losing people's lives and actually having stigma and casting a shade of doubt and disbelief on entire fields. We should make sure that we don't allow for this to happen with genomics. We're at a stage where we could decide how our genetic data that we generate now can be used in the future. Let's make sure that the data that we generate now makes the best use, not only for us, but for others as well. Because unlike any other form of personal data, here it's an extremely complex relationship of shared privacy, shared ownership, and very difficult data protection. Because unlike being able to encrypt your conversation to protect them or put a tape on your webcam so no one can see you, sharing your genetic data actually happens all the time, just like now. So being able to protect it actually requires a lot more thought. But there's no time for fear, of course. We also have the opportunity that this field is relatively new, so the old legislation and ethical concerns have to be implemented at the beginning of every project that involves this kind of study. And our own responsibility as people who own, at least partially, our genome, is that we make sure that we use it for good and prevent it from misuse. Because we might not be the sole owners of our genome, but we are the guardians of our genome. And the way we decide to use it now and how proactive, aware, and wanting to know more and interested we are now can actually impact the worth of our genome, not only the worth of our genome, but the worth of the genomes of everyone else around us. So important in this time where information is so easy to acquire is not the knowledge, but the illusion of knowledge. And we should make sure that we don't live in an illusion of knowledge, but stay informed about our own genome and its worth. So now that you know what the worth of your genome is, please make sure that you make the right investment, because actually future doesn't start tomorrow, but today. Thank you.